Good morning, Biology 30s. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about fetal development with you. And this is going to be a fairly short video because there's a really good video TED Talk that you guys can watch that'll walk you through a lot of these events. But I'm here in the Fetal Development and Birth Notes Guide. And to start with, this is just a nice little summary of the events of embryology that we've already covered, right? We talked about the first event being fertilization to form a zygote, and then as that zygote, as soon as it starts to divide, we now call it an embryo, and it undergoes cleavage, which is cell division or mitosis. The important steps: blastocyst for implantation, then the development of the germ layers, mesoderm, ectoderm, endoderm, and the formation of the extraembryonic layers, allantois, amnion, etc. So you've already done that, and make sure that you know that material. And then moving on from there, we're basically all you need to know for embryology is just a couple of events, maybe one or two events per trimester. And then, like I said, watch that TED Talk if you have time. I'm just going to pull that up for a second. I have that here. It's conception to birth visualized. It's excellent, and I have that as a link for you guys available for you, so you can just click on the link and watch it. So just need to go through and know a couple of events in each trimester, and there's some really cool pictures you can look at, and that TED Talk has some absolutely beautiful visuals as well. Then here is the diagram of the developing fetus and associated structures. So, I mean, you should be able to label the diagram of the fetus. You can practice drawing it out and be able to describe 5 supporting structures, what they do. So uterus, placenta, umbilical cord, amniotic fluid, amnion, chorion, etc. So be able to label the structures, and then the next page, it just has a spot for you to write down how these are going to function to support the development of the fetus. Typically in the past on the diploma, there's been questions on teratogens. They will never ask you like specific details on a teratogen. All you really have to understand is a teratogen is any agent, any kind of substance or chemical that when mom is exposed to during pregnancy, it causes a structural abnormality, an anomaly, some kind of an abnormal development in the embryo or fetus, right? These are all harmful chemicals, harmful agents that are going to harm and cause problems in the development of the embryo or the fetus. So remember that mom has this connection to her fetus. The site of exchange of gases and nutrients is the placenta, which develops from the chorion. And of course, the tube that delivers those nutrients and gases to the embryo, to the fetus, is the umbilical cord. But don't forget that the two blood systems are separate. The fetus and the mom, they're separate. But anything that can diffuse across the placenta can go into the umbilical cord and make it into the embryo. And so that's how harmful substances, mercury, lead, alcohol, drugs, any of these things that mom takes into her body or is unknowingly exposed to, is able to get across that barrier and make it into the fetus. And most of these are going to be the most harmful during that first trimester, because typically mom may not even know that she's pregnant at that point in time. Okay, so just know that a teratogen is a harmful substance that can cause problems in the development of the fetus or embryo. And like I said, you don't need to know. I've got lots of examples for you. You don't need to know any of them, but it's just interesting reading. So next up, the hormones of pregnancy, and we have to discuss the corpus luteum and why it's so important. Basically, it is maintaining the pregnancy for the first trimester, the first 3 months. And remember, it's the HCG from the embryo, the human chorionic gonadotropin, that is stimulating the corpus luteum to secrete progesterone and estrogen. So I've just added in here HCG, and this is important. This hormone is coming from the embryo, the chorion of the embryo, and without it, they're not going to be a pregnancy. So it's the corpus luteum that's maintaining the pregnancy. So after the first 3 months, then that job is taken over by the placenta. So you'll typically see a question like, in the first trimester, if the mom somehow maybe she has to have surgery, she's got cancer, she removes her ovaries. Well, unfortunately, in the first trimester, that means there's nothing to maintain the pregnancy. However, if that happens in the 4th or the 5th or the 6th months, that's probably fine, because now it's the actual placenta that has taken over. It's no longer the corpus luteum in the ovary, and the pregnancy will continue just fine. Okay, so review the role of these hormones, and then we have to read and learn about parturition. And parturition is just its birth. Gestation is another word you may see, and that's how long the pregnancy lasts for. So humans is 38 weeks, but if you look at like an elephant or something, they're like 2 years long. A mouse is like 2 weeks. Labor, the contractions and everything, that is parturition. And then, of course, we talk about lactation, and that is breastfeeding. So this year I'm not going to make you guys watch the Miracle of Life video, but you should just review the different events that happen during birth. And then in terms of these events in birth, remember that oxytocin is working by positive feedback. And it is secreted from the posterior pituitary because, again, of nerve impulses. This is our sympathetic nervous system. And we're acting on the uterus and the cervix during parturition to help deliver the baby. Okay, so again, you can fill in the positive feedback loop. And then interesting stuff on C-sections, the afterbirth, what happens when the water breaks, etc. And then lactation, the hormones involved in that, 2 hormones. And for milk production, that is prolactin. And for oxytocin, that is milk release. And it is positive feedback during lactation. Again, that is from the hormone oxytocin. So hormones involved in labor, just interesting reading here. But again, you guys are going to have to review a lot of hormones here involved during the pregnancy and then during labor, oxytocin. And that's it for birth and development. Okay, again, if you need any help, questions, whatever, send me an email, michelle.ledeen@ghsd75.ca. Until the next video, take care.